Bhadram karnebhi shrnuyama devaha Bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaihi tushtuvagam sastanubhihi Vyashema devahitam yadayuhu Svastina indro vardhashravaha Svastina pusha vishwavedaha Svastina starkshyo arishtanemihi Svastino brahaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Have you ever found yourself fantasizing about something or someone? They were in your head for some time. Why? Yeah, in the context of the class, they were. Could you say, perhaps, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but you tell me, because you didn't know a lot about them, because you didn't know enough about them, that caused you to imagine who they might be, what they might be like, who they are. And the more you got to know them, the more your fantasy subsided. And that kind of felt like the end of that honeymoon, but it was just coming back down to ground. So this example shows us that the less we know about something, the more we tend to imagine what it is. The less knowledge we have about something, the more we project onto something. This is what every human being does in every field, in every endeavor. And Vedanta is no different. Reality is no different. So then the question is, what will I have to know so that once I know it, it stops my projection, or at least my projection is cut short? Because before we answer that, let's face it, for the longest time we have been projecting things onto ourselves and people and the world. And that was, okay, that was what we did. But why? Because we didn't know much about them. Will you ever know much about somebody? Will you ever have all knowledge about somebody or the world? So this means as long as I don't know things, I'm forced to keep on projecting. Think about that. Can you know everything in the world about everyone? No. So this means unless I discover something about every individual, everything, including myself, that is common, that we all share, then there is no way for me to live but to keep projecting. Make sense? So now, according to Vedanta, what would you have to know that would cause you, or that would make you stop projecting onto the world, of what the world might be, what's afterlife, what might be on other planets, what might be in different states, what might be the future like? What might cause you to stop projecting that? And according to Vedanta, we have already seen it is knowledge and power. So you have to ask yourself the question, what is it that I'm looking at? Simple question. What is it that I'm looking at? And your intellect immediately stops and says, what am I looking at? And where does your mind go? Forms within forms within forms within forms, all the way to knowledge and power, Ishvara. So if my mind is trained to always go towards Ishvara, then how can I start to compare one over the other? How can I start to judge? Because even the process of judging or projecting, even that very process is knowledge and power made possible the projecting process. You see? So I really want you to think about the implications of this, because we will all go back out into the world. And what takeaway might you take from this course? One takeaway that would cause you to live differently and have a different relationship with the world. That's the question. And that question is very important, because this is really about living Vedanta, not about theorizing. So again, according to Vedanta, it can only be Ishvara. And wherever there is Ishvara, that's exactly where you are. So ultimately, you're only ever projecting onto yourself. Yeah. So keeping this in mind, as we said, when this vision slips, and as it will, once Swami Paramarthananda said something wonderful, and he said, you see, when this knowledge comes into your mind and you're assimilating it, you're listening to it, then when you are back in the real world, then in some places where you're comfortable, the knowledge will be decently strong. Like where in your community, in your family, or maybe not in the family, who knows, right? But in some places, it will be strong. But in other places, it will be much weaker. In those weaker places is where you need to deliberately bring in this knowledge. That's where you are required to participate and just for a moment remember, what is one commonality that I share in this environment with this person? And then when I bring that in, then you can continue to respond as normal. Just that one slight reminder of that unity, Ishvara, behind this form, that's enough to change your follow-up actions. And that's all that's being asked according to this living this tradition. Without this question, then the question is then what's the point of this? Just hear it and then live exactly in the same way. We don't want, philosophy. We want transformation. And transformation requires deliberate repetition of what we have learned in class. Therefore, if all that is here is Lord, God, then my question is now, having heard that, how do I choose to live in this world? And that is really hard. That's really hard because for the longest time we have been living, as though they are just all forms, independent forms. So I need to now acknowledge those forms, but see something deeper through and through those forms. And that deepness, that depth, that is your work. No one can take you there. And even, if you think about this moksha, okay, I understand I'm consciousness, I'm awareness, but still, there's still a mind that's living in this world. So that mind still has to find a way to live and appreciate the reality. There is once a phrase that says, Dvaita Bhakti, dualistic devotion, is incomplete without Advaita Jnanam, without non-dualistic knowledge. And non-duality is dry and incomplete without dualistic bhakti. Think about that. And so once we said before, the table or the chair does not contradict the wood, because wherever there's a table or a chair or anything made out of wood, that's exactly where I will find the wood. So now, suppose a chair says, I don't have to worship the table anymore because it's just wood. It's made of the exact same things that I'm made of. Now the chair can say that to the table. The chair can say that to the table. But the thing is, it's still surrounding itself constantly through wooden forms. So thereby, you continue to do this devotion, this bhakti, but now know that this bhakti, dualistic bhakti, does not contradict non-duality. Sometimes we think in order to, quote, enter non-duality, I have to get rid of forms. I don't have to get rid of the pot. I don't have to get rid of the ornament. I just have to understand if I count 10,000 ornaments, bangle, necklace, ring, etc., how many actual things are there? only one gold. So that is what dualistic bhakti means. Dualistic bhakti actually shows you that you've understood this knowledge. In fact, it's not really dualistic bhakti, but it's bhakti understanding that whatever I'm worshipping, devoting to, it's really just the one reality, which is none other than myself. So again, going back, how do I wish to express this now in the world? When I look at the clouds, is it just still the clouds, or can that remind me of Ishvara? When I look at the sun and I feel that heat on my skin, is that just heat, or is that the Lord in the form of heat on my skin? When I experience impatience, is that impatience, or is that Ishvara in the form of impatience? See, we don't think about these things. It's just impatience. Okay? So bhakti isn't just as simple as putting an idol and doing 5 minutes of prayer. Bhakti is a constant process. It's the way of life. It's finding opportunities to what can I bring the presence of Ishvara into, in the smallest, most mundane things. And the very thing why it's hard is because we say, no, why small things? I want big things. But the real work is in the small things. So keeping that in mind, now the next verse wants to show us how did you come to this journey? What takes you to this journey, having started it? Entitled, How Belief Systems Take Root. Yam bhavam darshayet yasya tam bhavam saha tupashyati tam cha avati saha bhutva asau tat graha samupaiti gram. Anyone to whom a teacher may show a particular thing as the truth sees that alone. And that thing protects him or her as he is committed to this entirely. The thing he is committed to reaches him, makes him become one with it. Does anyone find suffering natural? Does anyone welcome suffering into their life? I mean, there's a context for this. We call it, toughness training. So you deliberately welcome suffering into your life. That's a different story. But in overall, what? Yes. There's a program called mental toughness training. That the idea is to deliberately make your life harder so that you can, build up your resistance and resilience to things. And for example, if you're walking with your friend and your friend has shoes and you're walking on gravel, then you take your shoes off and you walk barefoot. Yeah. So if there's a bed on which you can, or a chair you can sit on, then you deliberately choose to sit on the hard floor. It carries over into small things, where small things are no longer big.
There's a monk in Rishikesh, and he goes every day into the Ganga, which is very cold, and he does it since 60 years because he's 92 now, and every day he goes into the Ganga.
You know that Ganga, if you've been in it, it is so cold, and he dips all the way down. Yeah, some people even just put their feet in and up to the knees, and it's like too much already. And I think he does it for a couple of minutes, or there's another.
Every monk has some stuff. Like there's one monk, he doesn't touch any sweets, and the ashram is full of sweets.
Yeah, look at that. So that's up to you if you want to do that, but that's good for young age. So. That's the kind of things I would tell to 20-year-olds. They like this challenge, like, yeah, I can conquer this. So we can establish one fact. Nobody finds suffering natural, correct? Okay, so then what does this say about human nature? Suffering is not normal. So now you have to ask, then what is opposite of suffering? Because if suffering is not normal, then it must imply that the opposite or absence of suffering is normal. And this is something that's common to all beings. So what does that then say about your effort? If suffering is not natural, then every effort is for the sake of removing suffering. In fact, everything you've ever done in your life, no matter how small or how big, at some level, if you want to simplify it, I know you can go into psychology and put 1,000 different reasons, you can simplify and say it's only been ever to remove a sense of suffering, because suffering is not natural to you. For instance, you say, hey, I feel lonely. So then what do you do? What actions do you apply to remove the sense of loneliness? Because loneliness is a form of suffering. I find a friend. I associate with someone. What about, I don't want to feel guilty for being a bad person. I do not want to be perceived a bad person. Is that pleasant to be perceived, to perceive yourself as a bad person? No, so it's unpleasant. So it's suffering. So then what do I do to avoid that kind of suffering? I follow dharma, ethics. Okay? Because ethics, by following ethics, doing the right thing that's being asked for, it lets me know that I indeed am a capable person, that I do have the capacity to say no when most would say yes, that I do have the ability to look at myself and say, I am a good contributor, I am here to help, I'm not here to injure, and by doing so, I choose to continue doing actions which are aligned with ethics. But what's the bottom line motivation for that? I do not want suffering. So, what is then, if every action is for the sake of removal of suffering, what is then every action motivated by? Motivation for, which is freedom from suffering. What is freedom from suffering in Sanskrit? Moksha, enlightenment. So now, if you go to any teacher, what is then the motivation going to any teacher? To suffer? Or to remove the sense of suffering in whatever small capacity the person has. For that reason alone, we listen to audios, we listen to YouTube videos, we listen to live teachers, we start families, we do anything to have a sense of freedom from feeling small, feeling lonely, feeling inadequate, feeling insecure, feeling not safe, not protected. Anything is done for the sake of freedom from suffering. So what is the only motivation for every single human being in the past, in the present, and 3,000 years from now? It will always be moksha, liberation. Liberation, the recognition that I am completely free of all suffering. That all suffering belongs to the body-mind. I have no connection to that body-mind. I am free of the body-mind. So, if that is what we come to teachers for, then what does every teacher offer? If I come to teacher to remove a sense of suffering, then what by that virtue does every teacher have to offer? A solution to freedom from suffering. So now, look at this. Suppose the teacher has a starting point that goes like this. You are suffering, therefore there is something wrong with you, and for that reason I'm going to prescribe you an action, like a mantra, like chant a mantra 100,000 times, or do this asana, do that asana, perform this miracle, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, activity or protocol, and as a result, your suffering will go. Suppose the starting point is like that. What does then that imply about you? I am suffering, therefore there is something wrong with me. And so I have to do something to fix me. But then Vedanta comes in and says, something totally different. It says nothing is wrong with you. You're already liberated, already free right now. And any suffering that you ever experience is not because something is wrong with you, but because your identity is placed in that instrument, which is small, the body and the mind. And when is the body and the mind ever satisfied with the environment? When is your body and mind ever feeling perfectly healthy? Not one moment. There's always an ache or a pain. When is your mind ever 100% sharp? When is your memory ever working 100% deliberately and you're able to recall things like that without any issues? Never. And my identity being placed in that instrument, which is never perfect, then I look at myself and I say, something is wrong with me. Give me something to fix me. So now, suppose a teacher recognizes the self, the reality that you are, and sees that rope compared here to the self, and they project a snake onto the rope. What kind of remedies are they going to then prescribe you? Snake removal remedies. It's not even a snake, it's a rope. And then another teacher sees a belt. Belt removal remedies. That's the tough ones, right? The big stick and, right? You never know when they're going to get you. And so you get all these beatings for a couple of years, as long as you spend time with them. And you realize all I've done really was just gotten a lot of beatings, but I'm still the same person. When I go somewhere else, out of this sacred place, this protected shrine that I was in with this teacher, the moment I go out, I see nothing's really changed. I cannot figure out the world. The world's still elusive to me. People still don't treat me the way that I want them to treat me. I still feel small. I've lost it. I only had it inside the house of the ashram. Now I don't have it anymore. Until one day a teacher pops up and says, it's okay, I will save you. Now this teacher does something different. They introduce a belief system. They say to you, what you have been believing so far is all wrong. Let me show you a new belief system as some God that you can believe in, that you can always lean against, and that will give you that will be your savior. And what happens now is you believe something so firmly that everything else becomes your enemy, which brings even more suffering, because the moment you're exposed to someone who's outside your belief system, outside your little, I respect all religions, but for the lack of a better name, how do they call it? A cult, I think, a cult. So anything outside the cult is considered my enemy. So when someone shows up, I cannot reconcile them with me. I cannot befriend them. So now I build unconscious enemies in this world. And then once again, I go through this for some time. And then I say, even this has not removed my suffering. What do I do now? Until finally someone comes over and says, it is not about a belief system. It is not about being broken. It is not about fixing you. It is really just about coming to see the nature of what is. The reality is already perfect in this moment, because the reality was not created by you. Who am I to judge the reality that I did not create, that was here way before, million years, 2 billion years, this world was here. And when I get born, I look at the world and I start to throw labels according to what I want the world to be for me. And then I say the world is not perfect, which then motivates me to change it. But Vedanta says the world is already fine as it is. My job is to simply align myself to the reality and live from that place. And then you say, wow, so that means that the whole problem from the beginning was misalignment with what is. The problem was I had notions that were not keeping with the realities. So now I am finally ready to receive those notions. And that's when the scriptures comes into your life. And then you doubt the scriptures. Then you say, but then isn't the scriptures just some old texts? And you say, well, you could say it. But then again, if you look at the scriptures, are they really talking about a belief system? And if you start to look deeper into them, it's not something that you believe. It's something that you can verify directly right now. And you say, wow, so this is not really some belief system. This is just pointing out what I knew all along, which I felt in my being. I just couldn't announce it. I couldn't pronounce it. I couldn't kind of put it out into words. And here is the tradition, which is perfectly pointing out what I knew all along. Now it's just bringing it to light. And when he brings it to the light, you understand that, so what I knew all along, that was it. But now I have the right means to see it clearly. And you finally come to see it clearly. And what happens then? Your devotion starts to grow more and more and more. You start to see things much more than you used to see. You go to the most ordinary places, and it's not just a form anymore. It's not just a tree or a sun or a bird or a cloud or mom or dad. It is Ishvara in a form of that. And that Ishvara is also what your body is made of, what your thoughts are made of, what your very opinions about the world is made of. And thereby, this is the journey of the person who finally comes to this knowledge. Now, when this knowledge takes place, the next question is, what is the hallmark of non-dual clarity? What is the hallmark of clarity? And this is in verse 32. Na nirodha, na cha utpatihi, na badha, na cha sadhaka, na mumukshuhu, na vaimuktaha, iti esha paramarthata. There is no resolution of the world, no creation of the world, no one bound, no one striving for liberation, no one desirous of liberation, and no one free from bondage. This is the highest truth. Interesting. What is this? No one's liberated. No one's ignorant. No one's striving for liberation. How is this possible? I'm striving for liberation, and now it says no one is striving for liberation. And then it says this is the highest truth. It says there is no creation. That means there's no world. What do you mean there's no world? I'm experiencing a world right now. Okay, so we need to look at this from a certain standpoint. We took that example of golden ornaments. And you have one gold. And that gold, molten, is, you could say, undifferentiated, right? It has no form. Okay? So let's look at that gold as reality for a moment. And it's just molten gold. Now suppose from that molten gold, you take a little bit of it and create, a little, bangle out of it. Okay? Has that bangle in any way added extra weight to that total molten gold? Suppose the molten gold was 1 kilogram, and now that bangle that came out of that molten gold makes it 200 grams, so it's now 1.2 kilograms. Is that the case? No. So this means from that 1 kilogram of molten gold, suppose I create 100 tiny minuscule structures, ornaments. Wherever I find that ornament, I will find the gold. This is clear. But can you say now, from the standpoint of the gold, which every ornament is, from the standpoint of the gold, that something was created? I want you to now put yourself inside the gold. Don't look at it from top down. But imagine like you're inside the gold and you're everywhere. You're in every single ornament right now. You can have 100 ornaments created. You have no idea what's being created because you are everywhere. You are all throughout every ornament. From the standpoint of that ornament, which you are, things are being constantly created. New ornaments, new rings, new bangles. And from the standpoint of outside, someone looking from top down, there is new creations. There is a person being born. There is who you call ignorant. This one's being born, who you call enlightened. This structure over there. But you as the gold, you are just resting, being the gold. You have no clue. You are totally oblivious to what's going on. Because you are everywhere. You get the imagery? Yeah. So now when it says from this, there is no creation, there is no one bound, no one is striving for liberation, no one is desirous of liberation. So if you take that from the standpoint of awareness, which is now compared to the gold, is there any new creation? Is anything ever new that was standing outside awareness? We'll just draw a little diagram here. Okay, suppose, I know we're going to put boundaries, which is kind of contradictory to all-pervasive reality. But imagine this is like all-pervasive. Okay. So now this is the total reality. We'll call it consciousness or Brahman. Will you ever find something outside? No. So now, can you say if something's created, when you say created, do you mean as in something from the outside got kind of pulled, sucked in? Or do you mean that from the same substance, which was already true, whole and complete, from the standpoint of a certain standpoint, there was a little ornament created? This I can say, an ornament was created from a certain standpoint. From the transactional standpoint, an ornament was created. But from the standpoint of consciousness, nothing new is ever created. So now when it says, no person is ever liberated, no one is bound or liberated from the standpoint of awareness. Let's take a ring. From the standpoint of the ring, which doesn't know its nature, which is ignorant of its nature, is there something to attain? Ignorant ring. Yeah? From the standpoint of the ring, there is something to attain. So from the standpoint of the ring, you could say that ring which believes there is something to attain, you could say that ring is ignorant. But from the standpoint of the gold, is that ring, is there such thing called ignorance? Is there like an ignorance attached plus gold? No, it's only gold. From the standpoint of the ring, it says, I do not know this gold. Therefore, I have to attain this gold. That's true. So you cannot just say to someone, oh, there's nothing to attain. This is what we hear. You know, these big people, you know, whatever you want to call them, you know, small people, there's nothing to attain. Of course there's something to attain. Otherwise, why else would a seeker be seeking? Because from their standpoint, I do not know this reality. You talk about this reality called gold, but from my standpoint, where's the gold? Which is really ironic, isn't it? Even though it's already the gold, it's looking for the gold. Why do you think this is? If the person is already this reality, awareness, consciousness, and all there is here is Ishvara, but we'll just focus on awareness, consciousness, why is then the person having so much trouble just owning up to one's nature? If they're already that right now, just like the ring is already the gold right now.
Because the whole world is seeing something
The whole world since the beginning has been saying you are this, you are the bango, you are not a good bango. And then on top of that, there's adjectives attached. Now I have to plow through all the adjectives, that's called psychology, until I come to the basic person, which I can then start to analyze. Navia?
It doesn't know that it's called also because of what we learn Maya and stuff like that.
Yeah, Avarana Shakti. Yeah.
Because it's inherent, if it's built in.
Excellent. So now, let's look at that for a moment. Did you decide to be ignorant of your nature? No. So then can you blame yourself for the mistakes that you've made in the hopes to try to discover who you are? And all those mistakes and all the people's feet that I've, accidentally stepped upon, can you blame yourself? Yeah. I want you to think about this, because if you deliberately said, I'm going to choose to be ignorant, and consequently I will hurt people, I will step on people's toes, in that sense you are directly responsible. But if you didn't choose, which you didn't, because nobody chooses to be ignorant and thus make mistakes and suffer, because we just said earlier on, suffering is not natural to anyone. So the fact that suffering is not natural to anyone, which is proven by everyone's behavior, and ignorance leads to suffering, then that must mean I did not choose to be ignorant, because that would lead to being under the state of suffering, which is not natural. So then what does this say about ignorance? That I planted, or it was there all along? It was there all along.
For my clear understanding, you talk about Brahman, Paramatata.
Yeah.
And you talk about Ishvara, then we have Vyavahārika.
No, the word Vyavahārika is prapancha or jagat. Do not call knowledge and power Vyavahārika, because knowledge and power is also that which is yet to come. Vyavahārika is only the world right now, in this moment. But Ishvara also includes all the things that have taken before, which have gone now, and all the things that are yet to happen in the future.
Okay, so you say there also is Brahman and Brahman Ishvara in that.
So the most you can say about Ishvara is Mithya. But do not call it Vyavahārika.
Okay, then you make a distinction between Mithya and Vyavahārika.
Correct. Even though Vyavahārika is Mithya, but don't say that Ishvara equals Vyavahārika. Okay, so Vyavahārika means in English, transactional world. Prapancha, jagat, time, space and objects. But is Ishvara just time, space and objects? It's also laws. It's also all the things that are yet to happen. It's all the things that have happened. So only right now you're experiencing one small portion of that intelligence organizing as this moment, including John, Andre, and everyone else in this class. Yeah. And this moment you call Vyavahārika, transactional reality, where I transact with you, where I exchange words with you. And how is that facilitated? The sounds you're hearing right now are sound waves. That's also Ishvara. So there's the Ishvara in form of John, Ishvara in form of Andre. And then by the laws of biology, Andre has heard sounds, brain is processing, and is responding back to John. And it's all happening in this order, automatically. And so all we're now doing is I'm here. Okay, so then what is this about? What is this whole life about? I have to figure it out. And then we bring the teaching in and says, wait. There's something much more deeper underneath these forms. And those two realities we've talked about, knowledge and power and consciousness. That's the Vedanta. That's the privilege of Vedanta. It brings these two realities forward. Now your devotion changes. Before my devotion was, Shiva Lingam or Christ. And then I was like, oh, okay, so Christ is up there. But even up there, the concept of up there is knowledge and power. Down here is knowledge and power. Over there is knowledge and power. So there's no way to now say that Ishvara is parked somewhere in the distance. Therefore, devotion changes completely the meaning of what it means to have a devotional life. Now, the most ordinary becomes an object of worship. A flower, the ground, the wall, nature, something in your house. No more need to travel somewhere to go to the temple, to go to the church. What's the difference? It's all knowledge and power. Okay? So, benchmark of non-duality. So we said, important point, from the standpoint of the ornament, there is something to attain. From the standpoint of the gold, there is nothing to attain. Everything is already complete. There is no second thing to threaten me because gold alone is. There's no second reality that's going to one day insert itself and contaminate me as the gold. So there's no need to sort of go, oh, I hope that something doesn't happen, in the future. So now if you convert this into the teaching, I alone am awareness. There's no second reality that's going to ruin my awareness one day, make me go out of existence. And thereby, from the standpoint of the individual, sure, there is something to fix. But if I shift my understanding that this individual, through a satya mithya that we've done, resolves into knowledge and power, and wherever there is knowledge and power, that's exactly where consciousness is, and that consciousness has no second, it's one without a second, then is there anything to threaten your existence? Is there anything to which you can compare yourself against? Nothing. So, reading this verse again, there is no resolution. There's no creation. No one is really bound. That means no one's really suffering. No one's striving for liberation. No one is desirous of liberation. And no one is free from bondage. This is the highest truth. Can you now see what it means to be? Let's just take an example, before and after. Before, the world is broken. Go and become a missionary and save a broken world. Save people, which is okay, and that is necessary. But then everyone's suffering, and I need to fix you because you're all broken. And let me give you a prescription. And then you say, okay, yes, I am broken. I will take on this prescription. So in other words, you just reinforce the very problem you're trying to get rid of. Because inside you're already pure. Everyone knows that already. There's something inside you that knows you're already pure. But the world keeps on saying you're not pure. And therefore you need to do this to purify yourself. That's why Vedanta comes into your life and you're like, relief, my goodness. Finally, I'm hearing the truth that resonates with what I've been feeling all this time, that there is something about me that is actually not different from this world. There's some unity about me that is not different from the rest. And the Vedanta explicitly points that out and says, that indeed, my dear, is true. Now let me show you how. No resolution or no creation. Okay. So let's go back to the rope example. Again, 5 of us are walking and there is not enough light. And we see, there's a rope. Someone left a rope on the outside. And we see, a snake or a branch. Because we superimpose, right? Why are we superimposing revision onto the rope? Because of the... Why are we superimposing? Wrong conclusion about what? The rope. Wrong conclusion about the rope. So I have a wrong conclusion about the rope. In other words, I don't have the right knowledge of the rope. I do not fully know the rope. No one's told me full knowledge of what a rope is, what it looks like, what it clearly looks like. And so what do? I then superimpose an approximate, something that looks close to a rope. And so for me, from my standpoint, a neutral rope reality becomes something dangerous. Right? So then I start to blame the reality. Reality is wrong. Let me fix the reality. Let me fix the world. Let me fix you. Okay? So the only limit with this example is when I throw the torchlight on the rope, what happens to the snake? From my standpoint. From my standpoint, the snake disappears. From another person's standpoint, who already saw the rope, is there any question of disappearance? No. From their standpoint, from the wise person's standpoint, nothing appeared, nothing disappeared. From my standpoint, the world was already perfect, whole and complete. All that is here is Ishvara. But I saw projection. I saw a world. I saw Andre. I saw the sun. I saw the waking state. I saw the dream state. I saw the deep sleep state. From the wise person's perspective, there's no question of any of them appearing or disappearing because they're as good as the snake superimposed upon the rope. Now, the only issue with this example, what do you think it is? Suppose I apply this to real world context, where once you throw light onto the rope, the snake disappears. And suppose you take this example and then you say, so therefore liberation equals that. Once I throw light on the reality, the world disappears, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you think Vedanta is going to now counter this error? Otherwise, you just end up trying to wait for the world to disappear, which is what we unfortunately some people do, right? And then I at least remember my times, early times, I kept on hearing, the world disappears. The world is going to disappear. And I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the world to disappear. And when that happens, then I am liberated. Never happened. Yeah. So how do you think we counter this example? You have to use another example. For example, once I know that this pot is nothing but the clay, do I suddenly no longer see the pot? No, I continue to see the pot. I just cognitively understand it is much more than the pot. So in that same way, when I see this world through the eyes of knowledge, the world continues. The blue sky continues, even though I know it's not blue. The earth, the sun continues to rise and set, even though I know it is not rising and setting. The stars continue to be small, even though I know they are ginormous atomic bomb explosions. Okay? So once the truth is ascertained, once you know the reality of things, don't think that perception changes. It continues exactly the same. The only thing that changes is what? Knowledge. The conclusion about what I've been seeing all this time. I've been seeing the rope all this time. Once I gain knowledge of the rope, the snake no more has any perception for me. I don't see the world. I see the truth. So when we say, see the truth, we're not saying there are some zeros and ones. There's just all these Aries fairies flying around. We're just saying cognitively, I understand what is what. As a consequence of conclusions changing, what do you think, how do you think that might affect your experience of living?
You can relax now.
Okay, you can relax, okay, for sure. Well, I mean, suffering at the level of the body-mind, right, still continues. A bee bites you or mosquito bites you, it's not like you don't scratch anymore. So suffering at the body-mind continues. It's just, no, it doesn't belong to me. But that's right.
Pain is there, suffering less.
Hmm?
The pain is there, but the suffering.
Yeah, it's less because it's not happening to, right, me. It's not a big deal anymore. Right, so there's a certain maturity. But see, then again, that's what adulthood does anyway. a child, is a big deal. A person grows up and is like, okay, it's not a big deal anyway. So you could even say that suffering is a natural byproduct of just growing up rather than moksha. But the conclusions change for sure. Right? The grip that the waking state, all these things in the state right now that one takes to be real, the grip loses. It loses its grip.
You don't want to fix anything.
Yes, okay, that's true. Although there is still that human heart that wants to reach out and help to those people who are asking you for help. However, as being a missionary, like I've got to save you, there's something wrong with you, this definitely has no more place, because that's just simply a wrong conclusion. In fact, it's actually, if you think about it, it's actually arrogant to do that. That means I'm better than you, and therefore I need to fix you. And who am I? I don't know your life. Yeah.
But the blaming on external things.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, so for example, you see, if something happens to you, it's not really about you. This is very important, because there's no God out there who's just, singling you out and saying, it's your turn, my dear, I'm going to now punish you. It's just you happen to be in that place. There are other people around you who may not know any better, and they just happen to say the wrong thing, and then you feel hurt, right? Or you may not know all the data, all the facts, and you say the wrong thing to someone else, and from their standpoint, they're greatly hurt, but you didn't intend to hurt them, right? So we have to understand that the world is not there to just get you. No one's getting you. There's no one out there to get you. Rather, you have to understand that the laws are impersonal. They're impartial. If a saint has a special vase which their grandmother gave them, right? And this vase is very precious to a saint, and the saint accidentally drops this vase, gravity is not going to say, hey, I'm going to suspend gravity because this vase is very important to you so that you can continue teaching your dear students. It has to work. Similarly, if a normal person drops the vase, it also falls down. Another example I commonly use is both a, how should we call them? The bad guy, I don't want to call them anything, just a bad guy, and a saint. They both go to the Amazon jungle for, an excursion. And if you've been there, it's got a lot of mosquitoes, right? It's like a mosquito city. By the way, how do those locals, they don't use mosquito spray. Yeah, I saw one of the locals, they were showing lemons, and there was mosquitoes. They didn't mind. So, genetics.
The blood is sour
Ah.
because of the bites before.
Ah, okay. So they don't like the blood, huh? Okay. Yeah, I wish I had that.
If you are in that country for 2 years, they don't bite you anymore.
So what, you develop immunity or something? Friendship? Or yeah, friendship bracelets. So suppose you have a saint and a bad guy, right? And they both go to the Amazon. And the mosquitoes has malaria, right? And the saint has sweet blood. Yeah? Now the saint is saving thousands of lives. The bad guy is saving nobody but himself. Is the mosquito going to go, whoa, before I land, let me just think about my options very carefully. This man is very important in this society. If he dies, there will be great damage to a large number of people, including, generations to come. But generally, this saint has incredible influence on people. And a mosquito thinks over the options and chooses to bite the bad guy. Is that how it works?
But what about the karma?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, for now, just wait. So the mosquitoes are programmed to like a certain blood type. The saint happens to have that blood type. The mosquito is going to go for that blood type. Now remember, mosquito is Ishvara. The saint is Ishvara. So now can you say that Ishvara is punishing the saint if both of them are Ishvara?
It's very bad karma for the mosquito.
See, now you have to careful. No, careful. See, that's something that I'm very careful to talk about, because it's like an airplane crash. And recently we had one, and then there was one guy who was near a door who survived. And people started to ask questions. And the simplest way, see, in psychology, there's a phenomena that we call simplification. We try to simplify reality to something that makes us feel comfortable. And so we look at these circumstances and we go, oh, okay, it's your karma. And then I feel better about it in order to explain your suffering. That excuses me from not reaching out or having any empathy, number one. Number two, it doesn't cause me to look deeper into the interconnected web, which my mind is not capable of even ascertaining. And since I do not want to admit that I cannot think that deeply, an easier way out is just to brush it off as it's your karma. Number three, is it really your karma because things are not ever happening or always happening from the past? There is also a first time happening right now. You see? You cannot say it's all happening from the past because the past is right now becoming the past. So if you account all of that, can you really say that the bad things or good things to you are karma? Or you can just say, I really don't know what it is, but if there's one thing that I do know, it's happening and I need to do the best I can to work with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was a joke.
This is your karma, yeah.
That's your karma.
Free teaching in return.
Yeah, of course. I can understand why you were saying that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't you think that the definition of a saint is that he is more connected to his environment and to Ishvara than a bad guy, by definition, and that the mosquito or the lion or whatever will not choose to attack something that he recognizes?
See, the thing is, it's not just about the Amazon mosquito example. It's about universal laws. Like, let's go back to gravity, right? The gravity is not going to suspend itself and save the saint from falling down accidentally, or the bad guy pushing down the saint down the stairs. The gravity will pull down the bad guy and the saint. The point is, the laws do not create exceptions for anyone. Otherwise, then you have to call God an anthropomorphic man who is now saying, whoa, 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 I'm making a decision. This is not the wise thing. This cannot happen. Remember in Bhagavad Gita, we had Krishna who tried to convince Duryodhana, hey, this war is not good for you, my friend. I know, like I've seen this a million times in my, like infinite times. I know exactly the trajectory that you're going towards. If you do this, you will spiritually regress. There will be no benefit to anyone. And Duryodhana is like, no, 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 no. Same thing with Ravana, no. Eventually, Krishna says, I've done all I could. So even the Lord couldn't suspend. Even the Lord doesn't have the right to stop you from doing what you want to do. The Lord cannot suspend the laws to save the good guy. As a consequence, there's another example. Krishna, before he went to Duryodhana, he knew that the war is coming. And Yudhishthira was concerned. And he went up to Krishna and he says, you know, this war is about to happen and many good lives will be injured, right? Many people will die. And it will be bad for the society and it will carry on for generations to come. You are the only being, because you are the Lord of all things, who can stop this. And Krishna says, no, I can't. Because this is what's about to happen is a build-up based on many, many, many consequences. And I cannot just intercept that because that's not how it works. My job is not to intercept things. My job is just to offer myself in a form of air for people to breathe, in a form of space, in a form of body, in a form of brain, in a form of heartbeat. I provide the resources. I provide the material for all beings. Based on how you use that, what's given to you, that is, according to that, the world that we live in now. So the world that you live in now is a product of all the collective decisions that people before us have taken. Once upon a time, someone thought of a touch screen. And today we have social media epidemic, right? With thumb exercise, right? Because of a touch screen. So all the kids today, which are going through that mode, is because of someone innocently tried to create something that's easy to navigate. So now if you times that by 1,000 more times, right, that people create, that people withdraw, then you have this moment. You have what we call world. And in one of those moments, your body gets born and you say, wow, what a world. Now I have to navigate myself in this world. And you find that some things are not easy, some things are easy. And then slowly, if we go back, you eventually find a teacher who lets you know there's nothing wrong with you. It's time to do the real work. It's time to discover, your nature, time to discover your truth, and time to kind of realign yourself back to the laws. Because you have no choice. If you eat a lot of food, actually, this is a good example. This is where karma can be put in this context. Okay. You have two people, and they both eat a lot of food. One of them gets fatter, right? For them, chocolate affects them like that. The other, not so much. Yeah? So this means even though there are laws in this universe, those laws, how sensitive you are to those laws, becomes your karma. That is why some people are more, have a stronger immune system than others in the same condition. You put me in a cold place, you go to a cold place, I get a cold like that. You're strong. So though the same universal laws are applied on the two bodies, one body will respond differently to another body. Why? Because your trajectory, your karma, your makeup is different from mine. Why is it different? That I don't know, but it is different. So in that sense, you can apply a little bit, in the context karma. Okay, so what is it meaning to say, I am ignorant of my nature. I do not know who I am or what I am. The way to explain this is through two kinds of superimpositions. And we will say this is the first one, and I will relate it to us, so it doesn't sound all technical. You superimpose body, mind onto awareness. Now, give me some features of the body mind. Tall. Give me one mental feature.
Thinking.
You'll get your break soon, yeah. What else? Thinking.
Sad.
Yeah, sad. Sad is something tangible. Sad. Okay, so that's enough. So therefore, another name for awareness is I, Atma. So therefore, we don't say I is, we say I am, right? So we say thus, I am, I'm going to put in brackets is. I am tall, I am sad, okay? So therefore, whatever complexes comes along with tallness. Suppose you live in a society that doesn't like short people, then when they look at you, they put you on a pedestal. And then you develop a complex and you say, I am desirable. So therefore, I am becomes tall, I am is sad. So that's superimposition number one. Body, mind, attributes are superimposed onto you. Okay? Number two is the attributes, I'm not going to say attributes, the characteristics or the nature of awareness gets superimposed onto the body-mind. This is called mutual superimposition. Now give me one, what's the nature of awareness?
Peaceful. Unchangeable.
Unchanging. How about immortal? Okay, immortal. And one more word is free, like totally free. So now, what do I want to do with the body? I want to make the body immortal. This is why we fantasize about living forever. Body equals immortal. And mind, I want to make the mind free. You see where the spiritual practices come from? Make your mind free. Nirvikalpa samadhi, thoughtlessness. Don't think about anything. Make your mind free and you are therefore, enlightened. So therefore mind becomes free. So these two superimpositions is what every person goes through. And that becomes what we call an identity crisis, an identity complex. So the whole Vedanta is about showing you that all these features that come and go, that change, they, on the basis of them changing, cannot be who you are, because you are that which is unchanging in all the three states we discussed. And it shows you that one more important one is awareness. So you try to make your mind, my mind equals awareness. That becomes reflected consciousness that we discussed. So then I say, my mind has consciousness. Consciousness belongs to my mind. So what have I done? I've taken all pervading consciousness and I've superimposed it onto the mind. You see? We'll talk more about this tomorrow. And we'll answer the question, who is ready for this vision? Who is ready for this non-dual vision? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.